In this video, I will show you how to find a confidence interval given the sample mean, standard deviation, and sample size. Let's say you want to find the mean salary for NCAA Division I college football coaches. You obtain the salaries of a random sample of 100 coaches. The sample mean is 1,500,000 with a standard deviation of $200,000. Find the 90% confidence interval. So in other words, we're finding the range of salaries where we can be 90% sure that the actual average salary of all the coaches would be somewhere within that range. This is the formula that we use to calculate confidence interval. Now, depending on what level of confidence you want, in this case 90%, that's going to control what z-score you use. Now, you will probably be given those z-scores that you need. This is not something that you memorize. There are ways to calculate these yourself, but that's beyond the scope of this video. So, since we want the 90% confidence interval, we're going to use this z-score of 1.645. Okay, so here we go. So we're finding the margin of error, really. And so I'm using that z-score of 1.645. Now, this sigma represents the standard deviation, which they told us is $200,000. And this n represents the sample size. Well, this was a sample of 100 coaches, so I'm going to be doing the square root of 100. Now, normally I put this whole thing in my calculator, and this is going to be like plus or minus. This is what we'll add and subtract. But in this case, some of this is going to be pretty easy to simplify. So I have 1.645. Because the square root of 100 is 10, so if I look at just this fraction, I have 200,000, and then the square root of 100 is 10, so that'll be 10. And dividing by 10, you really are going to wind up getting rid of one of these zeros. So instead of 200,000, it will become 20,000. All right, now you could use a calculator however much you wanted if you didn't like those steps that I just did. You could really put the whole thing in your calculator all at once if you wanted to. Anyway, so the margin of error is going to be plus or minus. Now I am going to use my calculator here. And do the 1.645 times 20,000. So that is 32,900. All right, so that's the number that we have to add or subtract to the sample mean to find the interval. All right, so the 90% confidence interval is going to be, let's see, the mean was 1,500,000. So we're going to wind up doing 1,500,000 plus or minus this margin of error. And that will give us the confidence interval. The low will be obtained by subtracting, and the high will be obtained by adding. So if I do 1,500,000 minus 32,900, that will give us a low of 1,467,100. Now, if instead I add then I'm going to get 1,532,900. And there it is. This will be the 90% confidence interval. In other words, we can be 90% sure that the actual average salary of all of the Division I coaches is somewhere between these two salaries.